Mold is at an all-time high today, which is the one thing I am allergic to.
Yeah,
Okay. Pollen is down.
mold is up.
Mold is up. You know, I know that as a matter of fact, because I was watching CBS this morning.
There you go.
Now that I think about it.
Learn something new every day.
Indeed.
See you, Chris. I'm gonna just snap it once. Good? Yep.
Coming around. Done.
Yep. Got it on both?
Take a honey.
Good, done? Yes.
Wow.
No problem. Just do what you need to do.
Amazing. I got the whole footage.
We're all perfectly happy.
Everybody happy?
Kamala do look good for her age. No, for sure.
You good?
She's definitely
I'm good.
attractive.
All right. Well, Madam Vice President, one, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
And thank you for inviting us into your home.
Of course.
We're going to be running this on the anniversary of the Hamas attack
Yeah.
on Israel.
October 7th.
So let's just start with
Hang on
Israel.
1 second, Bill.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had someone in the background. I'm afraid you're going to have to re-ask that.
Okay, whoever's in the dining room? It was me. Okay.
So yeah, just to start with Israel.
Okay.
We got our hands on the raw footage of Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview. Last October, in the heat of the election, Harris, Hail Mary with CBS. But the network was caught deceptively editing this answer. Watch.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. The Wall Street Journal said that that your administration has repeatedly been blindsided by Netanyahu. And in fact, he has
Blindsided.
rebuffed just about all of your administration's entreaties.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And we're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Trump sued CBS for $10 billion, and it looks like they might settle. But before that happens, the FCC released the full interview, unedited, and we have the tape. They talked for an hour and left a lot out. Here's an answer that never made air. Watch.
I'm trying to understand how it is that with this emphasis on the border, the numbers of crossings quadrupled under the first 3 years of the Biden-Harris administration. How did that happen?
There are a variety of factors that relate to what we have seen globally and what we are not immune from at our own border in terms of what we have seen in terms of surge of immigration and irregular migration. And there are solutions at hand, but we've got to have leaders who are solution-oriented, which we've been and are.
Yeah, that had to go.
CBS also cut out their host pressing Kamala on how she's going to pay for all of her giveaways.
We dodged the bullet.
If all of this makes so
remember
much
this
sense, why has this not been done?
I remember this one.
You're dealing with a Congress that is divided, that many are in opposition to not only you but your policies. So how are you going to make this come true?
Bill, if I approached my life as though, well, it's never been done before, therefore it cannot be done, I wouldn't be sitting here in this interview with you. That's the truth.
Then 60 Minutes tossed Kamala a big fat softball. And she swung and missed.
The most basic of questions. Why do you want to be President of the United States?
Good question.
It's a softball.
There are many reasons, but probably first and foremost,
Maybe not.
I truly believe in the promise of America.
All right, yeah.
I do.
That's backwards.
And I love the American people.
Good question for her, though.
You know,
I wanna
we
know.
are a people who have ambition and
All right.
aspirations and dreams and optimism and hope.
That's
a bad
why
answer.
you want to run. That's why you want to
I am running
president.
that and some other reasons.
But you're asking the American people to make you the most powerful person on the planet.
He knew.
Why do you deserve the American people's votes?
Well, first of all, I have a career
Yes.
and a history of being very clear
Yes.
that I think of my role of leadership, and in particular now for the last 4 years as vice president and moving forward as president, if the voters will
DEI.
have me,
Yeah, this
as being a leader on behalf of all
All right.
Americans.
Kamala wasn't the only one having a rough night. One of the crew guys misgendered Madam Vice President.
Is that what you needed?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. 30 seconds of silence, please, for John.
Michael Schellenberger is the founder of Public News. All right. Do you see anything scandalous about what CBS did here, Mike?
Oh yeah, a little bit. I mean, I just sort of forgot that that's how she talks, you know. And I was,
It was actually
I mean, you're
enjoyable
sort of
watching it again. I don't know why.
That the hair part was
I mean,
crazy.
it's like the easiest stuff to memorize. You would think she would have memorized it by then, but it feels like
Wasn't
she's
that bad.
trying to figure out why she's running for president every time she's asked. I mean,
It's
seemed
like
drunk.
a month before the election, and you're on 60 Minutes.
she's like, I'm
He's like, why do you
spitballing
want to be
here.
president?
Why am I
And she's
running?
like, well, let's see.
No, he's right though.
Nah, but she seemed drunk when she was doing her hair. She said, "Do what you have to do."
Just the fact that she couldn't give like concrete answers, and like the fact you can't even give a nice, compelling, articulate answer on why we should vote for you as president is absurd to me. That's insane.
I might say something so crazy.
That's a question you should be ready to answer at
what,
any time.
You know what I realized? She said that in the Israel and Gaza war that we help push movements. What did she mean by that?
Like the movements of like protests and stuff.
I'm not talking about protests. She said inside of that war we push movements. and
Democracy,
treaties.
bro.
You think democracy?
Yes, that's the only movement that they claim that they're always pushing. Yeah.
You know what I thought they was pushing?
what?
When you look at the USAID and she talking about helping movements push over there in Gaza and Israel, you know.
Talking about like transgender and them.
I'm talking about them. I'm talking about them 100
Like, what did
million
they-
in
that
condoms.
was for probably a war plan, brother. That was fraud. I mean, they didn't use 100 million on condoms, bro. It's not
But
what they
you,
did.
not, like,
I just
you see
don't-
what I'm coming with? I'm just saying, was they giving them money on the low?
Probably.
What, Hamas?
Probably.
She said help the movement.
They did it. It's a fact. They already said. Trump said they gave 100 million to Hamas in condoms.
But like, did they actually give them the condoms or they gave them the bread?
The breed. That's why they shutting it down. Oh yeah, we're gonna fill up a U-Haul of condoms. We're gonna just drop them off and just unload it like Mr. Beast and let it all fall out. No, brother. They gave them the money and said in the invoice for condoms. That's what happened.
Bro said an invoice.
That's kind
Let's see
of
what
that is pretty bad, bro.
it's bad. It's really bad.
So then you telling me that war? I'm not saying this war. Well, it possibly could. This is a conspiracy. Well, it looked like to me they really caused.
we
October
know
7th.
that. They claimed that it was from Iran and all. No, you guys, we don't know. We know, bro. Literally, Trump just
It's our speculations, y'all.
He
Y'all
just
hear this? Speculations.
made peace in the Middle East in literally a couple days.
Well, he shut down the
So,
border.
Let's just leave it. Let's leave it at that. There is peace in the Middle East right now because of Trump. So let's just, we know they funded something. It was their fault.
It was their fault.
It's hard to believe it's been just 2 weeks since inauguration. We've been hard at work at the FCC on President Trump's executive orders, including bringing down the cost of living. But on this particular one, look, I don't usually get out there talking about FCC investigations, but there were some leaks involving this on Friday and over the weekend, so I wanted to be clear about it. We have sought the unedited copy of the transcript and the video from this interview, and as part of an FCC investigation, there was a complaint filed under something called the news distortion policy, and that's a 50-year-old policy at the FCC that applies to broadcaster, so not cable like
But how
Fox
they
News.
found out?
And the policy says you can't,
could tell.
swap answers out to make it look like somebody said something entirely different. The classic case is if someone says yes to an answer and you splice in a no answer.
She's not that
Here,
bright.
it's usually very difficult to make out news distortion complaints. You don't want the FCC leaning in too heavily on this. But here, as you pointed out, CBS played the same question on 2 different programs, and clearly the words of the answers were very different. And so what we've done is we're seeking out the transcript. It's due today, and I expect CBS to provide it by the end of the day to see what, in fact, was said as part of our own news distortion investigation.
And then what could be the consequence from that?
Checking Trump.
Well, look, there'll be the full suite of FCC options that are on the table that apply to any broadcast licensee. We obviously haven't made any decisions, but there's no way that the FCC can adjudicate this claim without getting a copy of the transcript. At the end of the Biden administration, my predecessor summarily dismissed this complaint, but I'm not sure how you can possibly do that without seeing the actual video to see what was the real answer. Was it edited? Was it, edited for clarity and length, which would be fine? Or are there other reasons why the editing took place? So we're going to take a look at that, and we're open-minded as to potential consequences.
Will that transcript become public so that all of us can read it, or because of the investigation, do you hold on to it?
I haven't made a final decision on that, but I do think that transparency here is incredibly important. I do think the American public ultimately deserve to see this for themselves. And what's interesting is CBS releases other transcripts. For instance, the Face the Nation interview recently with Vice President Vance, they released the full unedited transcript there, but for some reason they haven't done that here. And
this isn't edited.
We'll soon see why the FCC, again, their response of the video is due today, and I expect them to comply.
Brendan, just one other topic and a quick question. You have sent a letter to NPR and PBS saying that you're concerned that the broadcast could be violating federal law by airing commercials. What is happening here, and what's the next step?
NPR and PBS, they're different than regular broadcasters. Every broadcaster has a public interest obligation. And for years, I think the FCC has been completely absent on enforcing the public interest obligation. And one of the things that I've said from the get-go is I'm going to hold broadcasters accountable to operating in the public interest. With these 2 in particular, they get taxpayer funding, and they're not allowed to run commercials because of that. They're non-commercial entities under their FCC license, and there's some potential evidence that they've been running commercials, so we're going to take a look at that. And then where the investigation goes from there will just be led by the facts. It could expand beyond just that narrow issue.
Brendan Carr, FCC chairman, thank you so much for being.
He talking his shit.
So it just sounds like straight corruption, bro.
Bro, this isn't. When you go on any media outlet, when have we ever seen somebody edit anything? Like even on these interviews.
I'm sure like there's some that's edited for sure, but like the fact that they edited it so much to push an agenda that she's more qualified than she obviously was, to make her look better than she obviously was, and manipulate the perception of her to the voters is a complete dishonesty from the media. And we should be outraged at that, because if she went and bombed in the interview and this is supposed to manipulate the public to think she's qualified and ready to be the president, I mean, that's a problem. And I think they rightfully are being sued and exposed, and the trust for the media should be at an all-time low.
I think we need to get. You remember that Bill Cosby interview on CBS, and there was just so many cuts. You remember that? The Bill Cosby, when they were trying to make him look crazy.
Was that 60 Minutes?
Yeah, I think so.
Remember they were trying to make him look crazy, and you kept seeing the chops, and then he was speaking, they was talking over him. I'm not gonna lie.
CBS might need to,
I mean, they obviously doctored. They obviously have been doctoring footage. Well, I won't say obviously, but I think it's credible to question that they've been doctoring footage to manipulate the perception of guests and push a narrative. I think that's 100% something.
And then they're trying to make
that's credible.
They're trying to make Joe Rogan to come out like they're trying to make Joe Rogan seem as like he's a bad guy now.
Well, I think what he's addressing is the fact that recently it's come out that he screwed over Harris in favor of Trump.
That's cap.
On coming on his show, because I saw like there was like some like typewriter footage of like someone from the Harris team basically claiming that Joe Rogan refused to have her on the show.
That was bullshit.
On her terms because he wanted them on his terms.
He's pissed about it,
et cetera, et cetera. And now it's like going super viral. I saw that on X.
That should be a lawsuit again. They keep
hold on. Actually, I'll show the transcripts of what's going on.
Joe Rogan said that we can do the interview at 12 a.m.
I'll show the claims that he's replying to.
It does not matter what time you're done, whatever you're doing.
But I think he wanted it in there.
Yeah, he wants it in wherever he's at. But she was close.
Flaherty is someone in Harris's team. It says we could do Friday the 25th. This is what one of Rogan's reps allegedly said. Wish we would have known about that sooner because the 25th is blocked out as a personal day. What about Saturday morning? Flaherty said only if it's before 8:30 a.m. became the tough reply. The tone is different. Flaherty thought the vice president of the United States is offering to come on your effing show and you keep putting up more hoops. Harris's team still wanted to make it work out, but a new wariness set in on October 22nd, the same day the Harris camp announced the rally. The Associated Press reported that Trump would be Rogan's guest that Friday. The personal day Rogan had originally reserved. Mutual friends Elon Musk and Dana Wright had convinced Trump and Rogan to bury their dispute, according to a Trump aide, and there would be no Harris interview. This has 7 million views, 70K likes, 7,000 retweets, and 7,000 replies.
Do y'all know how much money Joe Rogan could have made by getting Kamala Harris on a podcast?
A lot of money.
I mean, this is obviously like the OG podcaster, the biggest podcast in the world.
So I'm gonna keep it 100, bro.
So to say that he just screwed her over, I don't believe.
I don't believe that. And I mean, podcasts were definitely a factor in this election, but at the same time, you cannot blame a podcast because you lost the election. I don't think so. I don't
they
think you
had
do that.
CBS and NBC and all of them
Cheating for them.
Yeah, so fact checking. So I don't see the problem.
Like, yeah, they just want to complain and crowd, man. Let's see what Joe Rogan said. But he literally said out of his own mouth, I don't think he would lie. He said, I would do this at any time. It was some people that was coming in. He had a date booked for some people coming, I think, from Europe or something like that. And he said, I don't want to screw them over because we already had our time set. So can we just do this another, in the morning? But this next day, we can do it at any time y'all want to do it. And they didn't want to do it. So I don't know.
I guess it's probably a good time to talk about this. There was a thing that came out recently. There was a book. There was some book about the Kamala Harris campaign where they talked about her getting on this show. And they said a bunch of things that weren't true. They talked to supposedly talked to like 150 different people about her and what happened with her coming on the show. I don't know if it's 150. A lot of people. They didn't talk to us, and which is kind of crazy. And which is like they didn't even ask. But they said things that just weren't true. One of the things they said that weren't true was that we lied about the day that Trump was coming on. No, we just didn't tell you that Trump was coming on. He was already booked a long time ago. This is how it worked. Trump was really easy to book, like super easy. We offered one day. He said yes. That was it. There was no, what are we going to talk about? How long is it going to be? Is it going to be edited? There was nothing. Yeah. What's the waiver? Here, give me that waiver. Sign it. It was so easy. So he was already booked. They never committed to doing the show. So all this talk, there was another thing they said that the reason why they did the Beyonce thing, the Beyonce event in Houston, was so that they could be in Texas to do my show. They never agreed to do the show. None of that's true.
Cap.
They never agreed.
That's fucked.
They also said that they sent someone down here to the studio to do a walkthrough of the set. That's not true. The Trump administration did. I mean, if they are trying to say that they, as in the entire federal government, well, I don't think the Trump, well, I guess the Secret Service is a part of the federal government. Maybe you can kind of get away with saying that because the Secret Service came down here for Trump and looked around that we sent someone down, but it was not. It was the Trump administration sent them down because they're the only ones that had a date to do the show. These people didn't have a date to do, they never agreed to do the show. This is really important. Even after Trump went on, they offered for me to come to D.C. and do a show with Kamala. But even then, it was the same deal. It was only like 45 minutes to an hour. And, it was not on my set. And I said that, look, he did it here. We should probably do it here. Like, if it's possible to do it here. Obviously, when he did it, it had an enormous result. I'm willing to do the same thing for her. I wanted to release both of them on the same day. This was my goal. I was even trying to figure out if there was a way that I could do it, and I even offered to do it late that night. So the night that Trump came on, I'm like, what if we do her, like when she's done in Texas, if she came here? But no one ever committed to doing it. This is like really important because they keep pretending that I lied or I did this or I did that. They never committed to doing it. Well, we went through, I've got a whole, we have all the receipts, by the way.
Of course.
I have a whole list of conversations that took place.
Let's drop them.
They never said she was going to do it. So this whole idea that we fucked her over and then we fucked her over for Trump, incorrect. Just not true.
Now that I'm older, every time I hear something about Democrats, they be lying.
It get worse
Every
and
time
worse.
I'm looking up about a Democrat, they lying about something.
It seems like they try to manipulate the public perspective to change the narrative and shift it in their favor.
Think about how bad
I
they
think that's
lie.
what was trying to go on here.
These niggas are so bad at lying, they try to convince niggas that a man could be a woman. They lied to the humans.
Yeah, the fact that we even got to that point where we were trying to convince
You niggas
people
be
of that.
lying.
I think that's also like something that the Democrat Party has to look in the mirror and face the music on, because they completely failed women. Like, you have a party that ran on protecting women's rights while also running on infringing on women's rights. Like, we're talking about, oh, they're taking away abortion, which is completely false. And actually, abortion actually expanded over the election. Trump ran on letting states decide, and they let states decide, and abortion got expanded in more states. So actually, if the women's rights that were under attack were actually expanded in other states, while you guys are running on infringing on women's rights, hey, a man can say that he's a woman, and now he can enter all your spaces freely and impose on all your rights, the same rights that you fought for. And you have multiple women who are feminists saying that they're not comfortable with something, and now you're running on something that's infringing on that.
Delusional.
You want to hear another delusional talking point?
It's completely ridiculous.
I just told him earlier today, we need DEI, but I'm not DEI. That shit sound crazy.
And DEI is like something that actually
They push
discriminates on people based on race, gender, ideology, etc., while also saying we're for and in favor of race, gender, ideology, and if you're not, you're racist. But we need this thing that infringes on that. Like,
Hey,
That's
I
crazy.
done came to my conclusion.
At least
I mean,
the right, if they're going to tell us something, they're going to tell us something that
They
gonna
cuckoo.
hurt. And I respect it. At least it's the truth.
Yeah.
The truth will set you free.
The truth hurts, but the truth will set you free. And that's just what it is.
Hey, Joe Rogan, please release the receipts.
Let's go.
Y'all seen it, guys. This is insane. We out of here.